Hello. So as we tie up our loose ends on our form, I'm going to go ahead and associate the Save As menu item with an event. We already have that. We'll go ahead and show that we have touched that, and we know that it is properly wired to the controls on our form. That should give us some code in every one of our methods, just a very small amount of code, right? Now that seems like it would be a good time for us to do some commenting and taking a look at our using clauses. First of all, for our using, I'm going to need the .forms. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the rest and add that .io. Now for this application, this would be a really great place for me to put my overall system documentation. Now, the purpose of this application is to allow the user to manage roads in a list. And of course, we could get much fancier than that, but that's good. Now, I'd like to see some document header information like this in your application. It's very good practice for you to be properly identifying the creator of your code. After all, you wouldn't want somebody else to take credit for it, would you? Now, let's create again, comment at our class level. This class defines our form, and our instructor did not rename that properly, so we're just going to leave it named as form 1. Bad form, right? Bad form on the form. Now I'm going to add some more comments. Constructor for the form. Next, open a file. Save a file. Choose file name to save as. Exit the application. Add a new load to our list. Update a load in the list. Delete a load from the list. Display help about our app. It's all of them. Okay, so we've got some comments now for each of our different methods that we've added to our code, and our application is coming along nicely. Now let's take a look at our form in deciding how we're going to proceed. There are many different ways that we could start our development, and it all kind of depends on what sort of information we have available to us. If we already had a load day file available to us, then maybe we would want to start with our open. Maybe we should create a test load file to work with. Well, lots of things that we could try, right? So as we think about it, let's first off realize that we need to develop our load class. So let's develop that class. When I look at my Solution Explorer, I see that things have expanded a lot. I have now my icon images under my resources folder, which is exactly where I want them, so that when I give this application to somebody else, those resources will be available to them. So do make sure that your images are showing up in your resources folder properly. Okay, so I'm going to create, can I rename my form now? I'm going to try it. I'm going to save everything first, because I have that UML that's so nice, and it says that we're going to have this nice name, FRM load. Yeah, is it going to be okay? Let's run it and make sure. because you know how sometimes renaming things can really mess stuff up. We look okay so far. We're showing the right things. Looks like I was able to slide by on that one. Now under program.cs, I should rename it also. And I'll make it main load for our load manager system. Okay, we're back to where we were. So we're ready to create our load class. So I'm going to right-click on the project and say I want to add a class. This class is going to be named load. So I can start out here with some documentation. All right, defines a gravel load. Now we knew first that we want to put all of our private class fields, right? I'll go ahead and do my end region there, and I can put all these private class fields within these two. So I want, first of all, do notice that we're within our main class open and close curly braces. We don't need an additional set for our privates. We're using the region and the end region compiler directives to separate this information from the rest of our code. But looking at my load class, I need a name variable. Oops, but I needed to say what type it is first, right? I was looking at that UML diagram and got backwards. I'm going to have a type of gravel. I'm going to make sure that's what we named it. Yeah, and then I have weight in LBS. And then weight in Uzis S's. And what else do I have? Location. That's it. Okay, so now we've got all of our private class variables created. And do you remember a long time ago, like 2 weeks ago, huh? We looked at this class diagram. Let's see if we can take a look at it again. I'm going to find my load class here and right-click on it and say View Class Diagram. Now, if I expand my class diagram, I should see that it's already got those class fields that I just typed, because here they are. Remember, I could go ahead and use this class details screen to create my getters and setters for my properties for each of these fields to expose them from their encapsulated state within my class. Or I can use the code window to type that information. There's actually another thing that I can do that's kind of neat. Let's try it. I'm going to select all of these and right click. I'm going to choose quick actions and refactoring. And I think I'm going to go ahead and generate a constructor. Let's do that first. Now, when I say to generate a constructor, let's see where it put it. It created a constructor for me. Now I need to move my # in region. Since I generated that code, it ended up in the wrong place. I want it to be after my private variables. But now I have a nice constructor here. Now this constructor expects all data fields to create an instance of this load. Let's put a comment there. So it requires all of our arguments. We can create another constructor real quickly. Remember, a constructor has the same name as our class exactly and does not include a return type. Now in this one, we'll make this our default no-arg constructor. And in our default no-arg constructor, we could set some values if we wanted to for some of these different items. but we don't need to, so we'll leave that empty at this point. Now that gives us all of our constructors, so we can declare those as a region. Here are my constructors, and then I'm going to end that after our second constructor. Okay, so let's review. In our class, we have, first of all, the name of our class that starts with an uppercase letter as suggested by C#. We have our private class fields as a region, and then our constructors as a region. Now I'm going to generate some more code here, so I'm going to have to watch these regions again. Maybe I should have done that last. We'll see. But I want to do this quick actions and refactoring again. And this time I want to encapsulate my fields, but I still want to use the fields because I like having those lowercase private variables that are available just within our class. It's very efficient and a good way to do things. So I'm going to keep it that way, and I'm going to let C# generate those getters and setters. Move my end region. I guess I could have put a new one, huh? So I'll create a new region here. These are my public properties, my getters and setters. And then I'm going to end those. There's my end region. Now I could collapse those down if I liked, so you can see why I've been putting these in. Now I can collapse down and just have my private class fields, my public properties, and my constructors as separate items so that I can roll them up and roll them down so that I can see things. Now, we've really basically finished our class development here. We have our class private fields, which are all of the different variables that are associated with our class object. Then we have our properties, which are our getters and setters for all of those, just a way for us to see them outside of our method. Now I see a problem. I see that I've done a typo on weight everywhere. So let's fix that. I'm going to use my edit menu, and I'm going to choose find and replace, quick replace. And what I'd like to replace is this weight LBS. Because I typed that wrong. And I want to replace it with WEIGHT. And notice that I can replace next, next, next. Or I could just choose to replace all. So let's do that with our ounces. Weight, then. I'm consistent, right? OZS. I want to replace with the right spelling, OZS. And instead of looking at each one, I can just say replace them all. And it'll tell me how many it replaced. Notice that I can use this for all of my current project or my entire solution. So make sure that you're being useful with your time here. I've got something still backwards, don't I? Here it is, this last one. Is that better? So the find and replace dialog is super handy when you do something like that. I need to make these back uppercase because otherwise I've got a bunch of duplicates. WEIGHT. Goodness. Type it right in the first place, huh? Okay, so I think I've got all of those everywhere. Do I have weight spelt wrong again? Let's check. I'm going to do a edit, find and replace, quick replace, and wherever I've got WEI, I want to make it WIE. I before E, right? I want to replace all. Yes, I want to continue. 17 replaced. Keep going. W-I-E-G-H-T. All right. And then again, for my properties, I have to make them uppercase. Otherwise, I have some duplicate variable names. Just doesn't look right, does it? I'm going to change it back. I'm going to make you remember this find and replace because it's important for you. So I don't like that. I don't know how to spell it, but I'm going to say I-E, take me. Replace them all. And give myself some uppercase properties. All right, I'm going to quit messing with my weight variable then, one way or another. I should probably go to dictionary.com. I'll leave that up to you. But I believe that I've got my load class pretty well set. I'm going to look at our Visio diagram here, and I see, oh, yes, I need to have a toString method. So I'm going to come down towards the end of my class after my last # end region, and I'll put in a new region, and we'll say this is going to be class methods. In our class methods, the first thing we're going to have is going to be public. It's going to be an override, and I can press the Tab key, and Visual Studio will default to overriding a string. There it is. It's a little mad at me. Now, it by default says, well, you're going to return something if you're going to do a toString, and it puts this code in here, return the base toString. Well, that's not really what we want to return. What we want to return is a string that's going to be comprised of all of our different variables. So let's see, we want to return name plus space, plus we want to return the type of gravel, plus a space, plus I want to return the weight in pounds, plus a space, plus the weight in ounces, plus the location. And that should be our last item that's going to be in our output here. So that's going to be our return statement that's going to supply people with information or a string equalizer of our class. I'll put the end region after that because we don't have any additional class methods at this time. Our class now is complete. That was a really big step for us. We now can use that class to create instances of a load to add to our list. We'll do that in our next video.